So to me, civic ecology is about community-based natural resource management that helps expose people and engage people in the idea of a land ethic, the Aldo Leopold's idea of a land ethic. And that includes thinking about the community as more than just the people in the neighborhood or the people on the block. It includes the other life, from the soil to the birds to the bees and the wildlife, the trees, the atmosphere. All of that is the community that we live in. So civic ecology for me is this community-based natural resource management that leads to both civic, social sorts of outcomes that are positive or desirable and ecological outcomes that are positive or desirable. And those sort of civic ecology outcomes should be meaningful, they should be memorable, and most importantly, they should be measurable.
I see civic ecology as activity that connect people to nature and also help people to build a sense of community and social capital together.
Civic ecology to me is restoring the natural landscape to create spaces for which people can heal and rejuvenate.
When I think about civic ecology, I really think about the process of an individual community deciding what matters to it in terms of its own ecology, the ecology of its neighborhood, the ecology of its neighbors, and figuring out what it can do on its own as a community to make those ecological objectives happen and become reality. At the Greening of Detroit, we really think it's part of our job to create opportunities for those folks to see that reality happen in real time. One of my favorite projects was a project where we talked with kids about what they might like to see in the vacant space in their neighborhood. They envisioned a little pocket park. All they really wanted was a slide. And we created a 5-year plan to make the pocket park happen. And someone got excited about that, brought funding and resources to the project, and we were able to make that project happen in about a 6-month time frame. What was great about it is that the same kids who were little when they envisioned that pocket park, that slide they wanted, were still little enough to slide down the slide once it got built. That is kind of civic ecology in action. That is a community taking hold of a space that was important to it and making it something that worked for itself and making the ecosystem better as a result.
My definition of civic ecology, or what I think about when we use that term, is people taking action for themselves, and in that action thinking beyond themselves and thinking about all the different issues that are important to a community, to a place, and beyond.
When I think of civic ecology, I think of it as a framework to help describe many of the things that we're doing in our neighborhood and community, including tending to trash in our stream, planting native plants, working with kids, educating them about the environment, and just trying to live in a more sustainable way with others in our neighborhood.
When I think of civic ecology, I think about engagement of people in their natural environment. That can be everything from in their community park, to a local beach, to a forest preserve. I think about science and nature, people and nurturing of their environment, coming together, hands-on learning, multi-generational. I think about no books, no science books, no homework, just life work in the environment.
What is civic ecology to me? So, when we remember that we are species, it is that is ecology. When we remember it together with people, it is civic. And to realize both is through our practice, then it is practicing civic ecology. Yeah.
Civic ecology to me is the inspiration I derive from people in cities and in stressed communities all over the world who have learned how to care for nature and care for community at the same time.
Civic ecology to me is a little bit more wide range than what I've been running into here at this workshop. To me, it has a recreational lens in that I get to use it every single day for therapy, and to me it requires much more than stewardship or scholarship. It requires hands-on work every time I go into the wilderness. Whether it's fishing, hiking, biking, skiing, or just enjoying the serenity of the outdoors, civic ecology means taking care of that and protecting it for future use, certainly within the population that I work with, but for all individuals involved.
So to me, civic ecology is taking matters into your own hands, like observing something that's going on in the environment or the community and transforming that landscape in some way to alleviate an issue, whether it's by planting a garden, transforming a vacant lot, beautifying a space, looking at ways in which the community can benefit from a newly designed space.
And what I teach about and work on is the relationship between religion and ecology, and particularly in the context of training religious leaders for tomorrow. So if they don't understand sort of the human relationship with our environs, then we're really not helping them understand for the future. Part of that is the Green Seminary Initiative, and so I think it's out of that work with theological education across the board and out of work with religious leaders that a concept like civic ecology is so important. We often have a model that there are natural systems and there are human systems, and what I like about civic ecology is the notion that we've got to understand those two systems together, how we're always embedded in ecological systems, and those systems shape us. So what does it mean to then be good citizens of the planet? What does it mean to be good citizens of place? How do we open ourselves up to place teaching us, while we then recognize our interdependence with everything? And so that's, I like civic ecology because it's this much bigger term to try and capture all of the dynamics of that relationship.
My definition of civic ecology and learning about the experiences that I've gathered here in the last few days is related back to my line of work in northeastern Pennsylvania. As what comes more familiar to me is watershed restoration in communities that have been impacted by past mining, and developing relationships in those communities to encourage volunteerism to be a part of our efforts to get out into their communities to do the work that could help restore the landscapes that have been impacted by mining.
Civic ecology is a new concept to me, and it means to me people and place, and people in a place, working to improve, enhance their local environment.
When I think of civic ecology, I think it's really important that we stop talking about people and nature as if they're something separate. They're all part of one big system. And if you start to think of it that way, I think that we'll behave a little bit differently. So just thinking about the integrated interconnectedness of people and nature, and it's all part of one system.
I teach students about ecology. Most of my professional life, I've called myself an ecologist. Ecology is a relatively new science or study. Started in the 1930s when the word was formed. It was formed out of two words, study and the house, so the study of the house. But we developed the field of ecology to encompass a range of studies between organisms and their environment. So civic ecology is like a bunch of other ecologists, so whether it's a wetland ecology or population ecology or community ecology, all of the various flavors of ecology. But I think civic ecology is something new and different. And what it reflects is a growing are a changing relationship between people and their environment. There's now dramatic evidence to show that we've become a planetary force. The collective action of 7.2 billion of us on the planet have transformed our planet. And I think civic ecology reflects that ongoing relationship between people and their environment. And it, just like the Csync Center, which sponsored this workshop, is named after a social ecological system, I think civic ecology is acknowledging that complex relationship in ways that gives sort of some credence to this idea that humans have become this planetary force.
I guess when I think of civic ecology, I consider people's role in making decisions for the environment.
Civic ecology, to me, is an example of boundary crossing, just like urban ecology or urban agriculture or industrial ecology. It represents a possibility to unify apparent contradictions, and when you cross boundaries, it leads to new energy. I think this is true in ecosystems as well, where different systems, different perspectives, different values meet, something happens. And I think this pluralism of ideas and the mixing of different insights and values leads to a creative way of breaking what we call stubborn or hegemonic systems and routines that are inherently unsustainable. So civic ecology, in a way, is kind of a metaphor for connecting diversity in a more generative way.
When I think of civic ecology, I think of building the capacity of many kinds of different civic groups, stakeholders that are unlikely in some cases, such as local businesses and universities, but also public agencies at the city level, the state level, the federal level, that can learn to work productively together so that we can protect our environment, restore our ecosystems, and certainly help us adapt democratically to the challenges of climate change.
For me, civic ecology presents opportunities to engage the public in meaningful environmental work and an appreciation for what it takes to sustain an area or an environment. It promotes awareness, scholarship, and stewardship in the individuals that are participating. But I really feel that the opportunity that civic ecology gives us is one to engage disengaged audiences, bring them to the table if they weren't there before. But once we have them at that table, I think it's incumbent on us in civic ecology to make sure they have a split screen approach to understanding their role in all of this. We're in the here and now doing very important work, restoring neighborhoods, growing food, whatever the project is. But we need to be seeing ourselves as part of something much bigger. And for me, that means the climate lens is part of what you use to get the people with whom you work in civic ecology to see that connection between time and place, and then the bigger national, global scenario that presents itself every day. So it's an opportunity, and I think seizing that opportunity takes us to places where we can't even envision unintended consequences, good and bad, and evolving emergent solutions to how we take on stewardship of our areas and our planet.
When I think of civic ecology, I think of responsibility for the natural environment, the community, and the people who live and reside there, and doing the work to improve that for the entire group.
Civic ecology. To me, what I like about it is that pairing of the term civic and ecology, and it reminds us that we are citizens of our home, the local ecosystems, and beyond that, the biosphere. Just as much, first of all, before we divide it down into becoming citizens of our town, our city, our state. But all those different levels need to work together. The lines that we've drawn, the settlements that we made, within those spaces that we've drawn on the ground as human beings, we need to be citizens of those places for the greater good of our larger home, this planet.
Civic ecology is the study of places. And in these places live organisms, and people are a part of that community. So to me, civic ecology is just studying the ecology, the organisms, and their interactions.
My definition of civic ecology is basically that it is what anybody makes of it on the ground. Civic ecology can mean a community garden, it can mean people coming together to take care of trees on their block, it can mean people coming together to take care of the river that runs through their backyards. It takes different forms and it means different things to different people, and so it really comes from the grassroots.
When I hear the term civic ecology, many thoughts come to my mind. The first thought is actually that civic ecology is really an act of love that is driven by an ethic both of responsibility and self-determination. So it's not really about just freedom as a citizen, but it's the freedom to act responsibly, and responsibly towards one's habitat, and therefore responsibly towards one's planet. So it's really, it boils down to an act of love and an act of caring. That's what I think of when I think of civic ecology.